Welcome to Untangled Politics. I'm your host, Thomas Mitchell, and this week we will be talking about Ted Cruz's infamous Cancun trip. We would also be talking about the historic nomination of Deb Haaland, and we will talk about Biden's immigration plan specifically for undocumented children in the United States. So let's begin. So, in case you haven't heard, Ted Cruz, a senator from Texas, is in the midst of a state of emergency within his own state because of a winter storm that occurred last week. Millions of people lost power. Millions of people are struggling to make ends meet, whether it's economically, whether it's to actually have decent drinking water, whether it is to eat because there are food lines. What did he do? He went to Cancun, Mexico, trying to be super inconspicuous about it until a few people at the airport in Cancun caught him. And then after being caught, he literally turned around, booked the next flight, and flew back to Texas. Now, you may be wondering, like, well, why did he go to Cancun? Well, he claims he went to Cancun because his daughters made him. He said that they wanted to get out, go to Mexico, of all places, to hang out with friends. And that's where they went, while their state was literally struggling. So, upon returning back to the United States, Ted Cruz literally looks at reporters and says, "I'm sorry that I'm a good dad." No one questioned him about being a good dad. I don't know Ted Cruz. We don't know Ted Cruz's family life, so whatever. But interesting for him to say that because that's the only defense he has, using his own daughters. So after that, he tries to make a little media appearance of him helping one day. He helped one day loading cars with water and food and all. But while he was in Cancun, while he helped out one day, while he was saying that the media was too fascinated with what he did, former Representative Beto O'Rourke and current representative from New York, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, was able to raise more than $4 million for the state of Texas to help the people in need. Not only did they raise this $4 million, but they even went as far as to go to Texas. Beto O'Rourke, of course, his home state is Texas. Alexandria Ocasio Cortez flew from New York to Texas to help people. Now, yes, that's from the kindness of her heart because she's a decent human being. But it goes to show that someone who literally lives across the United States in New York knew that what was happening in Texas was wrong, that the elected officials in Texas were wrong, not helping their people. So she took it upon herself with Beto O'Rourke and a few others to take it upon themselves to help the people of Texas. She wanted to make sure that they knew that they were not alone, not their politicians leaving them out to dry. She knew that they needed help, so she took it upon herself with others to help them. And honestly, not only is it a good representation about Alexandria Ocasio Cortez and Beto O'Rourke of how human they are, but it's just goes to show that Texas, a predominantly Republican state in terms of politics, they look at this and say, there's not much we can do. There are people literally with no water, no electricity, no food. And then the few that have electricity are seeing that their electric bills are going up to $15,000 for 1 week. That's appalling. It is appalling. Now, we don't have the power to interfere with Texas politics. The people of Texas have that responsibility. And sadly, there's not much they can do right now. The elected officials they have are the elected officials that they chose in 2020. What I do hope in 2022, the next election, that the people of Texas remember this. Remember that people from other states had to fly and help them with the kindness of their heart and not the people that literally represent them in their own state. That is so sad, to be honest. But thank God we have decent human people to know that even though these are not my people, I don't know these people. I will do whatever I can to help them, whatever it costs. And that's honestly, although Texas is still struggling right now, that's the light at the end of the tunnel. That there's always going to be someone that cares for you and is willing to help you and will fight for you, even if they're not within your location. Now, going along, light at the end of the tunnel, I want to talk about the historic nomination of Representative Deb Haaland. In case you don't know, Deb Haaland was one of the first women elected in the United States Congress to be of Indian or Native American descent. Now, Deb Haaland was picked by Joe Biden to lead the Secretary of Interior. Not only, again, historically, she was the first Native American, one of the first Native Americans to be elected in the House of Representatives, but she will be, if chosen and confirmed by the Senate, she will be the first person to lead that agency as a Native American. Now, as I've said in the past, the Senate is constructed in a 50-50, with the Democrats being in control because of Vice President Kamala Harris. So every person in charge of every committee is a Democrat. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin has a little bit of opposition against Deb Haaland. He feels that Deb Haaland is not the correct pick, that she's too politicized. She seems a little too progressive, and he doesn't know she has the experience for the Secretary of Interior. Now, not only is it upsetting that Joe Manchin seems to be throwing a fucking wrench into all the political nominations, but it's upsetting that we literally have a woman who fought so hard in her life to represent the people that she feels ancestrally close to and has like genetically related to Native American people. She's truly an icon for Native Americans. And the fact that Joe Manchin wants to make her nomination as hard as possible for her to be confirmed, it's so saddening because it there's like we just came from 4 years of a president who chose people who literally had no qualifications, no background, no nothing, and the positions that they held. Take, for instance, Betsy DeVos. She was chosen as the Secretary of Education. She had no relationship to education, but she was picked because she was a friend of Donald Trump, probably a financial backer too. And Deb Haaland, who, yeah, she may not have worked in the Secretary of Interior. She is, as I said, a sitting representative in the United States. She is so close to her Native American ties. And as you can imagine, she is willing to help them in the capacity of the Secretary of Interior. Why would you not want someone who literally deals with Native American affairs to lead, to be able to lead an agency by a Native American? So I don't understand why Joe Manchin's doing that. I He claims that he wants to be the in the middle guy, choosing people who aren't overtly partisan. They're in the middle, but we just came from 4 years of people who were overtly partisan. And although some people in politics on the Democratic side are partisan, Deb Haaland is not the overt partisan as others. And as I said, she is part of a historical nomination as the first Native American woman to lead an agency. And she deserves to lead that agency because she has fought hard and everything she's done in her life to lead it. She is a great pick. She's a historical nomination. And if she isn't picked, she these people who won't vote for her are robbing her from the role model status she is to the little boys and girls who are Native Americans who feel that they too can be something in this country. And that needs to be the key message, that set aside everything you have about Deb Holland and acknowledge the fact that she is the first of her kind in the role that she's trying to get. Let her do it, let her lead it, and let her be the example to prove that you're wrong, thinking that she's going to be not the best pick. Well, let her show you. Give her a chance to show that what she can do is the right thing and that she's the right person at the time that we need her. And finally, I really want to talk about one thing that I saw going around Twitter and everything. And it's about Biden's unaccompanied children facilities opening up. So I'll be honest, it's again, Twitter is not indicative of the whole population, but I was seeing people, I was seeing news articles, and I was seeing some politicians talk about the fact that Biden opened another facility to put undocumented immigrants in these facilities like Trump did in his 4 years. And people are saying that Biden's no better than Trump. Biden's just making it even worse than what Trump did, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I'm not part of the Biden administration. I am not some Washington insider who works and hears everything on Capitol Hill, but I can literally just go on the internet, look up real news with real evidence and real facts to know the true story about what's going on. So let me explain. So the Washington Post stated that Biden was opening detention facilities, as the article stated, for children to be sent to that are undocumented, and they're going to be put in cages with the survival blankets, just like Donald Trump did. Well, to put it lightly, that's wrong. According to Jen Psaki, the press secretary of the White House, and through Biden's proposed reasoning through executive action and through the Hill, the news agency, the Hill, Biden's opening these facilities for children who were tried to get into this country while Donald Trump was president, was separated from their family at the border, and were put into cages with survival blankets. Biden thought this is unfair, this is unjust, this is just wrong. So Biden opened two new facilities. I believe the ones in Texas, but I know one's in Homestead, Florida. And what his intention is A, these facilities along the border are very, very, very crowded. And obviously, with COVID protocols, it's unhealthy for them to be in such tight vicinity within each other, especially when they come in contact with people who are in the outside world, like security guards and such. They too can get COVID and give it to them, and they all get COVID. So he opened these two facilities to help alleviate the um, extended capacity of all these facilities along the border so they can have more room to adhere to COVID protocols. And while they're there, Biden, unlike Trump, is trying to find these kids their family. They're trying to find their parents. They're trying to see if they're even still in this country or were they deported to their own home country. And they're also trying to see, because they believe that kids in facilities is not right, to see if they can go through what is essentially a foster system where they won't be in these facilities. They'll be with an American foster family. And until the government finds their family, the real family, then they will be able to be reunited with their family and see what options they have, whether they are to be deported, whether they are to be admitted into the United States as a legal immigrant, whether it's a work visa or so, proving that they have no criminal background in their home country. What really upsets me is when people say that Biden is essentially a new Trump. Donald Trump put these fucking policies in effect that essentially put kids in labor camps, is what it looks like, a chain fence, wearing the same clothes, wearing with survival blankets. He didn't care. Literally, when the family got to this border, he separated them. And the worst part is there was no adequate identification system. So now these kids don't know, the government doesn't know at all where the families are. These kids are they're so young. They've been separated by their family at the border for what seems like over a year for sure, maybe even 2 to 3. And for them to be told that they don't know where their family is, that's awful. That is awful. So, what Biden said was, this is wrong. This is so inherently wrong. We need to put them in a temporary holding facility, and it's our responsibility to reunify the kids with their family and find a foster care, essentially, to hold them so they don't even have to be in these facilities. They can be with actual human beings, with actual children, while they try to find their mom and dad. And then on top of it all, these facilities, they're not cages, they're not survival blankets. I'm not gonna lie, the living situation is not the best, but I compare the best as being in a home with a steady economic income, a steady source of food and water. They have a steady source of food and water and a place to stay, but let's call it for what it is. Who wants to be put in any facility? Even if you're a legal immigrant, like when you go in a foster care system, granted, as a child who goes to foster care, you're happy that you have a roof over your head and food to eat and water to drink, but you don't want to be there. You want to be with a family. And Biden, as I said, is trying to speed the process to have them have the ability to have a foster care system while the government takes it upon themselves to clean up the Trump administration's inactions and more immoral duty or immoral actions of saying we have to find their family. No child should grow up like this, and especially not in cages with survival blankets. These facilities are temporary facilities. There are over 600 children in this country who were brought here illegally that don't know where their family is or what their future holds. And on top of it all, these facilities that Biden opened offers a basic education system. They're able to still learn, able to still have a bed, able to still get food, able to still get water, and at least know that people are working to find their mommy and daddy. So don't criticize the Biden administration because the Biden administration, as we all know, inherited a shit show by the previous administration. And at least the Biden administration is trying to find these kids their families and see what options they have to either stay in this country legally or if for whatever reason need to go back to their country. Again, we don't know all the circumstances. I'm sure statistically speaking there are some that will be deported because of a family or a criminal record or so. But don't do not compare President Biden to former President Trump. President Trump did not give a fucking damn about these kids. He let them literally to rot in these small chain link fences with survival blankets. Whereas Biden has the decency and compassion to find them a better opportunity to live in this country. Granted, Temporarily, they're in facilities, but the goal is to reunify them and or in the process find them a foster family to at least let them be in American society and still have a childhood with a family and social capabilities of people their own age and not be treated as an intergalactical alien that's locked up never to be seen again. Don't compare that administration to this administration. They are completely different people with completely different sets and qualities that have a goal to help these families. At the end of the day, if you see something that seems so wrong or outlandish, before you hit that retweet button, before you press that like, before you share, just look up like 2 to 3 more websites to see if that's actually the whole picture. Or was it an opinion piece, an op ed? If it's an op ed, it is strictly opinion. There may be some evidence in it, but it's an opinion. Look up through the White House what they have to say. Look up the press secretary who gives daily briefings every day, who's questioned as a living by other media outlets what is going on. And then maybe after you looked up the real information, you looked up where this source is from, aka the White House, then look up uh, articles by places like CNN, Fox, MSNBC, and then see the whole picture. Have multiple pieces of evidence, sometimes going in different sides of the argument, and then draw your conclusion. We just came from 4 years of people who made up lies, who twisted the facts, and then whenever the facts was presented, said it was fake news. We are all better than this. We elected an administration, a Senate, and a House of Representatives to move on from whatever that was to real, honest facts that we need to have discussions about. But we cannot have discussions without knowing the facts. We cannot jump on emotions right away. We have to look at the evidence of things that are happening and then draw our own conclusions. We've all been in an education facility. I don't know if you, I mean, some people may have not done this, tried to half-ass their way out of it, but when you're in an English class, before you even write a whole paper, you need to find your evidence and then have a references page and then sometimes even have a counterclaim to understand what the opposite side is. I'm not saying make your next article. No one needs to make an article. I'm just saying use those skills you learned to understand the whole side, the whole problem, and then draw your conclusion. That's all. That's all it takes. And I'm sure, literally, I can tell you right now, when I saw on Twitter that everyone was throwing gasoline onto this wrong, uh, non factual argument, it literally took me maybe 5 minutes to read through 3 different articles to get the whole picture. And then on top of it all, I watched Jen Psaki's press interview and I read Biden's um, plan as to why he was doing this. Literally, that's all you need to do. Every single time, that's all you need to do. So don't retweet and like just by one article. Again, read the facts, then go back to the article, retweet it if you want, comment and saying what you believe. So then you can at least know that you did more research upon it. That's all. That's all it is. At the end of the day, as the podcast is called Untangled Politics, Everything's tangled up. It's a mess. There's so many different parts. Literally untangling it to better understand it not only makes you a better person, but it also makes you more educated and informed to understand the problems and how to go about them. That's all it is. That is all it is. It's not hard. Everyone has the ability to do it. The question is, are you going to act with that ability? That's all it is. On that note, thank you for watching, or thank you for listening if you're listening on a podcast. Please like, subscribe, comment, rate any platform that you use. Help the channel out. It really means a lot to me. Uh, I get to see everyone know that what they're seeing is cool, what they're that they like it and such. So, like I said, it means a lot for the channel. It really means a lot for me. And if my mic was too sensitive and you heard my stomach growling, it is currently 9:23. I have not had coffee or food, so I'm gonna go do that now. All right, see you next week. Bye.